close that door. I got it. Okay, we're rolling. Whenever you guys are ready. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Easy Cast. E. Hogan, Isaiah Collier, we call him Zay, so that's Z. So it's the Easy Cast. I think you can figure that out. I host the morning show. He produces the morning show, and we recap what our top topics were this morning. And there really was one big topic. I mean, there's a lot going on with quarterback soap opera dramas throughout the NFL, which we will continue to document. The Matt Stafford trade has gone down. What's the next big one to happen? Can the Cowboys get Dak Prescott signed? These are all big stories. But really a big story tonight here locally in Austin, Texas, is a basketball game, Zay. And Zay, you are a basketball aficionado. You played hoops, and boy, you know more about basketball than most anybody I know. So you got Texas and you got Baylor. Baylor's number 2 team in the country. We'll get to Texas and all the COVID issues and Shaka Smart, but this is a different animal. This Baylor team, they're 16-0. Think about this, folks. If you haven't watched a lot of college basketball and you're going to tune into this game tonight here on the Horn at 6 o'clock, they're 16-0. Their average margin of victory is 24.9 points per game. So they're beating teams by 25 points. The closest game they played this year was an 8-point win over Kansas. Everything else has been beyond that. So double digits to 24. What makes them special, Zay? I mean, they're deep, but they're talented. But what does Baylor do that is going to give anybody problems?
Well, it starts with their guards. You look at Davion Mitchell, which was the 2-guard majority of last year, and seemed like Scott Drew changed him and Butler. Now Butler's more of a 2-guard, which I think he's the better scorer, so that gives them a different dynamic. But Davion Mitchell, the point guard who was the Big 12, might be the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year this year. He could guard a lot of different spots on the court. You'll probably see him a lot on Matt Coleman and Courtney Ramey tonight. And then you've got Butler, who I think might be the best guard in the nation, considering all the good guards that we have. But this guy, as far as staying in front of him, you really got to buckle down, because he will cross you over, and before you know it, he's at the rim making a play for himself or for others. So those guys are, really the guys that make him go. Teague is obviously a really good player. He's a 6'5" guard with a 7-foot wingspan, which is very rare, so that's one of those guys that you have to stop. He could score in bunches. And then they bring guys off the bench like the Westlake alum, Matthew Meyer, who's, I think, is going to be a steal in the NBA. You don't really see him in too many draft boards right now, but when you're a 6'10" player that could shoot and put the ball on the floor the way he does, they'll find a spot for you. So the Westlake alum, he's a tough guard. Flagger, one of their point guards coming off the bench, he could score in bunches. The guy from Cameroon, Chuchamba, I might have messed the name up. I'm sorry about that.
We'll call him Chewy. We're going to call him Chuchamba Chewy.
Yeah, but he's another stud that you're going to have to get off the boards too. So, as I described all these players, they're obviously deep. They got a lot of guys that, will be making a lot of money someday, and the Horns got a tough one in front of them tonight.
Yeah, Jared Butler, the guard. I mean, he really is the straw that stirs the drinks. But Maceo Teague is great. You mentioned Mitchell. I mean, they go. And then they got the big guys up front. Heck, they played Auburn on Saturday in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. And you mentioned Flagler come off the bench, scored 19. That guy come off the bench, scored 19. But so they're a formidable foe at 16-0. There's no doubt. And Scott Drew, we know him. He's been a long-time coach here in the Big 12. Typically plays that zone defense, that 2-3 zone. Is that still kind of their forte, or do they match it up a little more?
It's like a matchup zone. So, it's very confusing, because you don't really know if you should run your man-to-man sets against it or your zone sets against it. So that could confuse an offense. But I think, you should run your man offense through a matchup zone. But, yeah, when you got guys like Vital, who I think he was a defensive player of the year in the Big 12 last year. That I
forgot about him.
Mention, number 11, who looks like a football player out there. It's going to be tough to score, but the real question is, do the Horns have enough players to be able to do that tonight?
Well, there's the question. So now here we come back to Texas. We heard from Shaka Smart yesterday. You heard a lot of them if you listened to our show this morning on B&E. A very emotional Shaka Smart yesterday on a Zoom call. Talking about his battle with COVID, and he had some serious symptoms, and he said it wasn't a walk in the park by any stretch and had some dark days. But he's been doing better now. He's out. But the whole program has dealt with the COVID run here. And for the first time in 19 days, almost 3 weeks, they had a full team practice on Monday. So you're playing this juggernaut from Waco, and you haven't been on the floor. We talked about it this morning, Zay, that it could go one of two ways. This team could hit the floor and be loose and free and just so tired of everything that's been going on. Let's play some basketball. Or this could be an overwhelming situation for them playing a team that, because Baylor folks had their COVID issues back in December. Scott Drew, their head coach, had COVID, and several players, they had to miss a bunch of games. Well, they got through that, and now they're playing their best basketball. So you could argue this game not good timing for Texas. What's your read on it?
No, it's not the best timing. And the thing that I would worry about tonight is maybe putting players out there that aren't quite ready yet, like Courtney Ramey, Jericho Sims, the guys that missed a few games, because you still have guys on your team with Williams, and you got Chase Febres, who I know hasn't played a lot, but they're still capable. And that's the pros of this, UT team. They're so deep, and you have guys that can, interchange in certain spots. But when you go up against Baylor, you need all hands on deck. So that's the only thing that I would really be worried about tonight. And you don't have to worry about the team playing hard. Like, that's one thing we might have to worry about a few years ago with Texas basketball. You don't have to worry about that when you got guys like Greg Brown out there, Kai Jones. Those guys bring it every night. So I'm not worried about the effort. I'm just worried about what guys on the court, are going to be ready to play due to all the games that they've missed thus far.
Yeah, in addition to just one full team practice in almost 3 weeks, they've only played one game since January 16th, and that was a loss to Oklahoma. And you could tell with Shaka Smart yesterday on the Zoom press conference, he wishes they had been able to skip that game, but they're starting to pile up the postponed games they've already got to remake. They only lost that game to Oklahoma by a point, which would tell you with a short bench and a short body, this is still a very deep Texas team. So we'll see where they are. This will be a national kind of litmus test game, gauge for Texas. Where do they belong? Talk about the timing, but either way, Baylor's really good. Texas thinks, talk about the deepest teams in college basketball. These might be two of the most, the two teams with the most depth in college basketball when you're bringing great players off the bench like both teams can. To match up in the backcourt with Coleman and Andrew Jones and Courtney Ramey against the guards that Zay mentioned. Be a fun game tonight. You'll hear it on the horn, 6 o'clock, 5:30 tip time. We'll see. I mean, the line is 5.5 to 6 in Vegas, whether you're, again, no one's played within 8. No one's played within 8 of Baylor this year. I don't know. We'll see. No moral victories here. See if Texas can get it. But it's the first of 2 meetings with these two in the regular season. They'll play again. They have to make up a game that was supposed to be back in December. So it should be fun. Texas and Baylor. And we'll certainly have an easy cast tomorrow to recap how this thing goes tonight at the Irwin Center. All right, Zay, among the other big topics this morning on our show and now moving forward is LeBron James.
Oh, goodness.
Let's go. Okay, so LeBron James playing in Atlanta with the LA Lakers is Georgia, so they got fans in the stands, not just fans in the arena, they got fans right on the court. And LeBron gets into a shouting match with a fancy couple on the front row.
Yeah.
What went on here? This was bizarre. Cussing and the two fans, the husband and wife couple, end up getting ejected from this game. LeBron just can't seem to find his way out of these little controversies he finds himself in.
Yeah, and if you hear, LeBron in the post game, he says that he loves it. He's glad that fans are back. He loves the camaraderie with the fans. But what happened, against the Atlanta Hawks is just, homegirl was trying to protect her man. Nothing wrong with that, right, E? Like, she was trying to protect her man. I think, her husband and LeBron were in a verbal altercation during the game, and she chimed in, and it seemed like she had a few brewskis in her, and, that might have influenced.
Courtside courtesy service, you know what I'm saying? They keep them coming, eh?
Yeah, so I think that influenced, how she felt, and you could go listen to B&E. We definitely put out the audio of how she felt, and we had to edit that extremely. But yeah, I like the fans coming back. I didn't think nothing of it. It was fun. Just, yeah, it was fun.
Good for social media. Blow it up. And, it's funny. We have a Specs text line. So many people, LeBron, everybody. I love LeBron is like the GOAT, man. He's unbelievable. Outside of Michael Jordan, but what he's doing at his age, still playing to an MVP level, is unprecedented. Kind of like Tom Brady in football. But LeBron James is much more polarizing as a player than Tom Brady, it does appear. But so there we go. So that good stuff. We'll watch that. And yeah, as I said this morning, does she kiss her husband with that mouth? She's got cussing like a truck driver, this lady, her and LeBron. But they got ejected. I don't know if they should have. Yeah, do you have to eject people? Maybe just move them back? I mean, come on. Maybe a little out of line, but either way, that's the way that goes. All right, well, that's the Easy Cast. We do it after each show, or as many shows as we can, when there's a big topic like Texas and Baylor. It's been a while, Zay, since we have a game of this magnitude in Austin. Top 6 matchup. Really, I think it's probably a top 3 or 4 matchup. I think these are 3 or 4 of the best 5 teams in the country, or 2 of the best 5 teams in the country that we'll see tonight, and good opportunity to see where Texas is with Shaka Smart back on the bench. And we'll certainly recap it tomorrow with you here on the Easy Cast. Find it on our platforms, hornfm.com, or Horn Twitter, Horn Instagram, wherever you find us. That's what we'll be doing. Any pick tonight? Can they keep it within the number, 5.5, 6, or do you think you got Baylor tonight?
Oh, man, it's tough to go against the Horns, but the scariest thing about Baylor is the fact that they felt like they were hosed last year and they could have won it then. I think that's given them so much juice and so much, bulletin board material to where, I think that it's going to be a tough one for Texas. Do I think Texas can beat them down the line, with everybody healthy, post all these COVID problems with Shaka Smart and all the players? Absolutely, but I think tonight's going to be a tough one.
Tough spot for Texas here, no question. What's cool about college basketball, Baylor feels that, so does Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Gonzaga feels like number 1 team. They feel like they had a championship opportunity taken away last year by COVID and the cancellation of March Madness. All right, that'll do it. Everybody have a great Tuesday. We'll be bright and early, 6 a.m. on the Horn with B&E, and lock it in on the Horn and all of our platforms, live, local, and digital all day here on the Horn.